As we travel through the plagues, I have one purpose. Is it God or the devil that's dumping pain on people? You can apply the plagues however you want. It doesn't concern me. But don't say it's God when it's the devil. So let's look at the language of the third plague. Is God the direct active agent of violence, or is Satan? Revelation 16:4. The third angel poured out his bowl into, listen, the rivers and the springs of water. What he struck? The rivers and the springs of water. This exact phrase appears in one other place in the book of Revelation, and it also occurs in a series of 7, and it's the third in the 7. Third plague, rivers and springs of water. Third trumpet, rivers and springs of water. John is making a deliberate, unambiguous parallel, so we know that he's told us this plague is an outgrowth of the third trumpet. They're both the third in the series of 7, and the language is very similar. Look at the third trumpet and listen for the phrase. 8, 10, and 11. The third angel, same as the plague. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. What does it hit? Blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and springs of water. Verse 11. The name of that star that he saw fall is wormwood. Wow. The parallels are unmistakable and deliberate. John is telling us that the third plague is the outgrowth of the third trumpet, and both hit the rivers and springs of water. But in the trumpet, the direct active agent of destruction is identified as wormwood. Evil is attacking those with the mark of the beast. We've been through this passage before, but it's so important that we're going to quickly revisit it. So in the third plague, it hits the rivers and springs of water. In the third trumpet, it's wormwood that hits the rivers and springs of water. Let's revisit wormwood. Again, just briefly so we can fill out the story in the plagues, because they're parallel. 8:10. A third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. The star is wormwood. The fall of the star, wormwood, in the third trumpet, that story is taken up in the fifth trumpet. In the third trumpet, John sees him fall from heaven, the great star. In the fifth trumpet, he says he saw the star that had already fallen from heaven, and he continues on the storyline as we've already seen. Look at 9:1 and look at the parallels and the continuation of the story of wormwood. The fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fallen from heaven. He saw it falling before, now it's fallen. The fifth and sixth trumpets, as we have seen, continues the story of wormwood as it hits planet Earth. What happens when wormwood is now already fallen on Earth? What does he do? 9, 2-5, just snippets from each verse, because we've been through this in detail already. And wormwood, the fallen star, he opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, verse 3, then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, verse 4. They were told not to harm the grass, but only those who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Verse 5, they were allowed to torment them. And the torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings someone. He sees wormwood fall, and the first hits the rivers and springs of water. That's interpreted in the fifth trumpet. What does that mean? He opens up the bottomless pit, wormwood. Smoke comes up, turns into locusts. All they can do is touch those who do not have the seal of God. Who are they? In the plagues. Those who've got the mark of the beast on the forehead, or those who've got the seal of God on the forehead. You've got two groups. That's it. You can't touch the sealed. And in the plagues it says, you can only touch those who've got the mark of the beast. And they torment them. Finally, wormwood is identified in verse 11. The great star that fell, that unleashes these demons to torment people. He's identified. 9:11, New Living Translation. Their king is the angel of the bottomless pit. Oh, he's an angel. He's a king angel. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek, Apollyon, the destroyer. Wow. So now we know who hits the rivers and springs of water in the plagues. It's the destroyer. God is not the direct active agent of violence in the plagues. We are seeing this again and again and again, that it is Satan. And it is the wrath of God. What does that mean? Divine absence, divine withdrawal. God releases his restraining power on the powers of darkness because the world now wants them. And God says, your will be done. And he lets go. And then all hell breaks loose. God doesn't harm anyone, but God will have the final say. He's letting evil expose itself as it turns against the lost. The devil's going to end up shooting himself in the foot through this whole process. Watch the story unpack. As we go back to the third bowl, the third plague, we've got two verses where an angel breaks into this plague and comments on what's going on. Yeah, look, he tells us the backstory of this plague. 16:4-6. Let's read the whole thing. The third angel poured out his bowl into the rivers and springs of water, and they became blood. We know it's wormwood, the destroyer. We know that now. Next verse. And then, when wormwood hits, the destroyer hits, and hits those with the mark of the beast, because he can't touch those with the seal of God. And then I heard an angel in charge of the waters say, just are you, O Holy One, who is and was, for you brought these judgments. For they shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and you have given them blood to drink. It is what they deserve. They shed the blood of the saints and the prophets. What's that recalling? The prayers of the saints. How long? 16:11. Before you judge those who have shed our blood. Now, sowing and reaping reveals itself. But Santo, it says, you brought these judgments. Yes, it's the wrath of God as he withdraws. And what God allows in the Bible is described as him doing. He allows it by him withdrawing his restraint and the powers of darkness. And don't let that phrase throw you, because these judgments will be taken up again as they come to a climax in the seventh plague with Babylon. And they are also referred to as the judgments and the wrath of God. And then what we see happening is God does nothing. God's judgments is, I'll let go. Your will be done. We've been through this, but wait and see how the story unfolds. God works through the judgments in his wrath as he withdraws. And then the prayers of the saints are answered. As wormwood, the destroyer hits them. They shed blood, and now blood comes upon them, upon themselves. They shed blood of the saints. Now these same powers shed blood on those with the mark of the beast. And then it comes undone as evil destroys itself. And God lets it play out. This is the storyline, and we'll continue on next time.